Good afternoon, San Antonio. Welcome back to Conversations with the 100. My name is Milton Harris, Executive Director for 100 Black Men of San Antonio. We are back here today for our second session of Banking Like a Boss. We have two great experts in finance here to present for you today. They were here for our first session with us, and we are so delighted that they came back to conduct the second session. We have Mr. Ivory Freeman, President and Board Chair for 100 Black Men of San Antonio. We also have Dr. Melissa Weathersby, an expert in finance, tremendous background. She did a great job for us at our first session, and we're just so excited to hear back from them again. And as we jump into this, we want to do a couple of highlights. Banking Like a Boss is a collaborative with 100 Black Men of America and Wells Fargo. The anchor of our presentations is presenting the hands-on banking curriculum that Wells Fargo has put out for families for financial literacy for the whole family. You can find that information at youth.handsonbanking.org. You see it here on your screen. They have a section for students and a section for families. It's basically a mirror of each other. They have an elementary school curriculum, they have a middle school curriculum, and a high school curriculum. And then if you click on families, there's a bunch of activities, fun activities that you can do with your entire family. It's really fun to increase your financial IQ around budgeting, investing, money, how money works, the whole nine. So make sure you check them out at youth.handsonbanking.org. There's a lot of fabulous resources there to, like I said before, to increase your financial IQ. Also, the 100 Black Men will be doing other financial literacy projects throughout the year. So be sure to tune in periodically to our Conversations with the 100 partnership that we have here on TAN TV. And so now we also, a key part of this initiative is that we have a pre and post survey that we want our youth ages 11 to 18 to complete. Now, this is very important because for our youth, if they open a bank account anytime between January of this year and April 30th of this year and save $100, the 100 Black Men will match that savings account up to $100. So the youth have an opportunity to double their investment. And we'll be talking a little more about investment later on in this series. And so please make sure you both complete the pre-test and the post-test survey, and you can find the links to those in the chat. If you don't see them, let us know and we'll be happy to repost them. So I've talked enough. I want to let you get over to your experts. Again, we have Mr. Ivory Freeman and we have Dr. Melissa Weathersby. I'll allow them to introduce themselves at this time.
Outstanding. What a beautiful day. I don't care. Just because it's rain makes me appreciate that sunshine. And, living in Texas, we got plenty of that. Again, my name is Ivory Freeman. I am the president of the 100 Black Men of San Antonio and a proud resident of the Cibolo Schertz area. I'm a retired Army veteran, and I am employed by New York Life Financial Services, and I've been doing it about 9 years. I love it because I have the opportunity to educate individuals on how to be more successful with their future. Because we know that, what we don't know is what we don't know. So sometimes you have to open up your perspective and listen to folks like myself and Dr. Weathersby so that you can learn and grow and be prepared for the future. And on that note, I'll turn it over to Dr. Weathersby.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
It's afternoon.
That is true. Somewhere in the world it's morning. I was playing.
There you go. There you go.
Good afternoon. Yes, on this cold Saturday. I thank you guys for coming out and just learning a little bit more about your money. I believe personal finance is the most important life skill you will have next to communicating. Okay, your relationship skills, you definitely want those, but you want to be on your game with your finances. So I'm currently a professor at San Antonio College. I teach personal finance. I also teach real estate. I also teach business. I am an entrepreneur, but before I got into having my own business, I actually was a branch manager, assistant vice president for Bank of America. Before that, I was with Nations Bank. And before that, I was with Security Service Credit Union. I've also worked at a finance company in between there, and I can promise you all three of those institutions are very different in their business model and how they market to their clientele. So I've got a lot of background in this. I enjoy teaching it. My doctoral dissertation actually was on the need for financial literacy in higher education, but you guys are getting a head start because the sooner you know this, the better off you're going to be. And the sooner you have better habits, the better your life is going to get. So today I'm excited about getting a chance to talk to you again about budgeting.
Thank you both so much for that. And real quick, what are you going to be talking to the folks about today?
Well, we're going to talk about what is a budget, why it's important to have a budget, the things that you can do with a budget, and also just kind of getting some what I call boundaries, getting, starting to align, okay, this percentage of my money should probably be over here. And then just some red flags if you're overspending.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Excellent.
Yeah, and to complement what we've been doing over last week and this week in the budget, and we're going to kind of open up the purview and kind of start talking about, now that we're stabilizing ourselves and we're starting the savings and we've got all of the right places in play, things in place, what's the next step? How do we now start really making the money work for us? We're going to whet the appetite of the audience with that.
Outstanding. And for the folks that are in attendance on the call, and then also the folks that are tuning in live, if you are a young adult, ages 11 to 18, be sure to complete that pre and post test that we have in the chat. If you don't see it, again, let us know. Put something in the chat or respond online, and we'll try to get that posted so that you can see it. We want this to be interactive today, this afternoon. So if you have questions, raise your hand or put something in the chat, and we'll see if we can get one of our presenters to answer that question. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our president, Mr. Ivory Freeman.
Okay, and it's to engage with this. So Dr. Weathersby, let's kind of have a conversation about the next step. So as we go through this little journey, I spoke last week that we took a little trip. Today, I'm sitting up in the newsroom because this is important and critical that we got about to go into World War III almost, depending on where things go in the next couple of weeks. So there could be some significant impacts. And my concern, Dr. Weathersby, and I think you can help me out with this, is, I'm just struggling week after week after week, month after month sometimes. And I'm just having challenges with making sure I have enough money. And is there anything that you can help?
Uh-oh, he froze. Oh, and he dropped. Okay, so I guess from here, I'll just talk about, if money is an issue, right? Because again, I think we all have those challenges that sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less. And so how I would answer that would be, a lot of times it needs to start with a plan, right? You need to have enough income to cover your living expenses, meaning where are you going to live? What about your food? What about water and transportation? I think just having those pieces of your budget already accounted for can really help you. And I think really kind of focusing on, okay, don't be so overwhelmed with who all else you owe. I think that can also be an issue if you've got a lot of debt or a lot of bills, you start to panic. But as long as your housing is secure and your transportation, and you don't necessarily even have to have your own vehicle, you can actually use the bus, right? Or a lot of people now use Uber and Lyft, and there are different variations of transportation that you can pick up, or, figure out how you can help a friend. If they've got a car, maybe you can pay part of their gas, to be able to get around in. But I think not panicking and having just kind of a clear cut example of, okay, do I have my apartment? Do I have, my house covered? And then my utility bills, meaning my electricity, my water, and being able to eat. I think just having those basics in place Mr. Freeman, I was just talking about when you were asking about money. I was saying that having your housing, I believe, is the most important, piece. Your living expenses come first, and when we talk about getting more money, people kind of start scrambling because they're thinking about everything else. And I'm like, as long as you've got your foundation laid as far as where you're going to live, how you're going to eat and drink, and then how can you get to and from work, your transportation. And if you can't afford your car, get on a bus. If you can't get on a bus, can you share a ride? Can you share expenses as far as gas just to get to and from where you are? Yes, Dr. Milton.
Dr. Mel, I wanted to ask the question because, Ivory led into having enough money. And so right away, that made me think about, someone once told me, it really doesn't matter how little or how much money you have to train yourself to live within your means based on the money available to you. Can you speak on that?
Absolutely. I've often said this, it doesn't matter how much you have if you can't manage it. So if you think having more money is going to make your life easier, it will not, because it's more to manage. So if you can't manage $10 very well, if you can't, if you don't know where that money went, you just blow money, you lose money, because some people just lose stuff. It's like, what? They're not paying attention. You won't do well with $10,000. You won't do well with $10 million. You really do need to live on less than you earn. And you need to have a savings plan, because that savings plan kind of insulates or ensures that, if something does happen, you're not going to get behind, or you're not going to now have to start borrowing to try to keep up. Because I've always said you can't borrow your way out of debt. I know people argue with me about that and say, well, you can consolidate. I said, well, there's up to a point, and then that stops. Like, so you got to figure out, okay, how am I going to dig myself out of this and stay out of this? And I think, if you can live on less than you earn, no matter how much it is or how little it is, you're going to be a lot less anxious or depressed, because I think a lot of people start to compare what they have to somebody else's. I think being content is the goal, and there's nothing wrong with having a lot. And there's nothing wrong with not having a whole lot, because there's a lot of people now that have just decided to be minimalists. You can go on YouTube and see people living with, living out of a truck or with a little RV thing. So people are really saying, we don't need all the stuff. We just want to be able to be comfortable. And I think having that as a goal, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I probably did not. I had a client that came to me. He was losing his home. He was a retired NBA player, and he had been in the league for almost 15 years, I think. And I think I was more puzzled by what do you mean you don't own your own house when you've made that kind of money? But that's what taught me, and this is a great time to talk about this, that it does not matter how much you make if you can't manage what you have. And if you don't pay attention, right, other people will come and they've got plans for your money. So I always tell people your money has a plan or an assignment. And if you don't have one for it, somebody else certainly does. Somebody will come sell you the latest investment thing or whatever. So you just got to be paying attention. But that taught me that even multimillionaires, if there are no good habits in place, if there are no plans in place, no boundaries that say, okay, we're going to spend up to this dollar amount each month or each paycheck, and then we stop. You can't, if you get into a habit of spending every single thing you make, you are going to, you won't be able to retire. Okay. You get to a certain age to where it's like, you would like to rest and you won't be able to. It's because you're living above, your means, and you never had a plan for your money.
Yeah. Super, super advice. Ivory, did we get Ivory back?
I see him. He's there.
Sideways. Go on mute, Ivory.
Technology is not being a friend of mine right now. I apologize. Right when I was talking, I got the blue screen of death. You got to love it. So it must have been so much energy that I was presenting there that the whole internet crashed on my side. Yeah, I mean, I caught the gist of everything you were saying. It's, but as we get into it, I think that the the attention to detail that I have to have is maybe what I'm lacking. Are there some methodologies or processes maybe that you could recommend of how I really understand where my money's going and what my priorities are?
When you ask about methodologies, are you just talking about, hey, is there like a specific number or a system? Because here's the thing, and I like this question too, because we all have different needs. We all have different wants. And I think if you can discern the two, because I want a lot of stuff, I don't need it, but I want it. And the sooner we get real about that and decide, okay, I need shelter, I need food and water and transportation. I might not need a Bentley or Benz. I might want that, or a Tesla or whatever. But if I got some wheels and I can get from point A to B, once I get into a better financial position, then yeah, you can go and enjoy your toys. But living on less than you make is really the key to all of this, not maxing out. And again, today I'm going to talk about having a zero-based budget, meaning that everything that you have should be accounted for to zero, right? But that doesn't mean you spent it all. That means there's a savings part of that. There's a giving part of that. There's your expenses, your entertainment. You can still enjoy your money, but you got to know where it's at. And I think also, last week we kind of talked about having a checkbook register or debit card register, that you are paying attention to where your money's moving, right? Who got what, and making sure that, hey, if there's an error, that you go and correct that right away or find out where it went. Because as I was saying, for the students or the students that are here online, eventually you might get into a career that you're very busy and you're very fluent. But what that might turn into is you have a manager that's managing your money. You better manage the manager, because the client that came to me had a quote manager that bled him dry. He didn't have money. Somebody stole from him. So the things that we're teaching in this series are very important for you to know how to handle your money and watch your money and make sure that you've got a plan, but that you're also watching your financial planner or your your tax advisor. All this, you need to know just as much as, what they're doing with your money. Because in the end, ultimately, you're going to be responsible for your money and who you hire to manage it. For all my millionaires on here, because I know I got some.
And then that includes family members. Sometimes people like to have close family members manage their money. But like Dr. Mel said, watching is the key word. It's okay to trust, but you want to watch and verify that things are being done in the proper manner.
Absolutely. Because what I've learned also that we don't talk enough about, and this is probably, I'm not sure if this audience is ready for that conversation, but there's a psychology about money. There's, how do you think about money, or what do you think about it? Is it good? Is it bad? Can it help? Is it going to hurt somebody? I think how we're introduced to money, or what we see our parents struggle with or not struggle with, or somebody else's family, a lot of times that creates things inside of us and how we react to money. And so your manager or your family member, they might see your money in a different way if you have them managing it, that it won't turn out well for you if you just turn it all over to them. So people see money differently. They behave with money differently. So you have to kind of know too, okay, what is their money style? Are they a free spender or are they stingy? Do they hoard their money? They don't want to spend. They might want to spend yours though. They might not want to spend theirs. So I think all of that goes into the same conversation of, well, what do you feel about money? Is it good or bad? Is it neutral? I've always said, money is nothing more than a means of opportunity. The more money you have, the more opportunities you have, or the more options you have. The less money you have, the less options you have. You're kind of stuck between, just a few. So it's not good or bad, but I find money, and, Mr. Freeman, you might be able to help me out with this. Money is an amplifier. So you become more of who you really are, the more you have, because you have more opportunity and options to do a lot. So if you are already kind of, not so nice, you're probably going to be really not so nice if you have more money. If you're really kind, you're probably going to be a lot more generous and a lot more giving, but it just amplifies what's already there. That's kind of what I've come to see with those who have a lot. You get to really see who they are. Some of them are fabulous and some of them are, yeah.
And, it's kind of like that, the cartoon that had Scrooge McDuck, he was, everybody else was struggling and he had piles and piles of gold and didn't share it with anybody and everybody was envious of him. So do you want to be a Scrooge McDuck or do you want to be somebody who's kind and giving? But yes, Dr. Weathersby, you're right. The other side of it is, the more money you have, the more money you spend. And so I really get what you're saying now. And I'm excited about kind of hearing the details on the presentation that you have today, because I think once I hear that, it's really going to start bringing everything together for me. Awesome.
Okay. So do you guys want me to get started?
Please.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
I think there's back there. Germani, how you doing today? You enjoying this so far?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good.
Tell you what, I wish I would have had all this when I was coming up.
Yeah, my gosh. Find a penny, pick it up. That that was that's how I was making money back then.
That's true. Absolutely. Okay, so I've called this budget, don't budget. Okay. So don't just kind of guess, in other words. And that's really what this whole thing is about, is trying to get you set up to know, okay, what is a budget? And actually, let me ask that question. Who knows what a budget is, or what do you think a budget is, or what's a budget for?
It's like when you have a certain amount of money and like when you want to spend 20, try not to go over 20.
Excellent. Yes. It's really just kind of boundaries, right? For your money, or like how much it's more like a spending plan is what I call it. For lack of a better word. It's really an accounting of what money is there. So there's really kind of two ways we can look at a budget. Okay. So it's that itemized summary of estimated or intended expenditures for a given period of time. Okay. So if you have to pay if you've got $175 worth of bills, you have to save that in order to be able to allot for that. Now that's just basically saying, okay, this is what I intend to spend. But then there's also a budget with, I need to save, right, for a down payment on a house, or I want to save enough money for my college tuition and my books, or whatever it is. So your budget has kind of two different features. You've got a spending feature, but you also have a savings feature. Okay. So you can budget for a particular goal, or again, you need to also budget for your monthly expenses or even quarterly expenses. Why should you budget, right? One is to save the money. We talked about that. You definitely want to have your nest egg there. And you also want to track spending. Okay. Because that's another thing. I think, like Mr. Freeman said, that the more you make, the more you tend to spend, or your tastes change. When you have the option of going with that pickup truck that doesn't have power seats or windows or heated seats when you're driving horses down the highway, or when you like that big King Ranch truck that everybody sees in Texas, right? Yes, exactly. Those leather seats and that moon roof and all the goodies and the hitch that drops down, and you've got the whole, the Cadillac of a truck. Okay. So, they both will get you from point A to B, but you look a little different.
Hey, Dr. Weathersby, it goes back to your wants versus your needs, though, on that example that you have. You want it, but what do you really need? And that, I think that has a big impact on that budget.
Oh, it's huge. Or, and again, I think we all like nice things. I am not, opposed to that, but that's one of the things that my dad, he always instilled in us. It was kind of like, you could drive your Volkswagen Beetle Bug, because that's what I had in high school. Like that was great on gas, and it was cool, but it wasn't like, you're going to want to go on a road trip, something that small. And it just is what it is, but it's still, it's a means to get you to an end. And I think that's like I was saying about contentment, that's the goal. Can you be content wherever you are and make do until the seasons change or it gets a little bit better? Or then you realize sometimes you didn't even need that. It just something to have. And then you get it and you're like, like it wasn't a big deal. So I think there's three different parts or three different reasons we should have a budget. That last one's very important too, is to, what are your goals or your dreams, and start planning for that, budget for it. Don't just think about or wish for it. Say, okay, if I know I need to have X dollars, because I do want that King Ranch truck and it's like almost $100,000 or whatever, something crazy, if you got the great big 1-ton dually. And yeah, I was surprised at how much pickup trucks cost now. So I probably don't have any pickup truck people on here other than, my buddies are on. So maybe you want a certain car, even a Tesla, those things are not inexpensive. And that doesn't have to be your first car. You could just say, okay, every year I'm going to, save money, and then I'm going to keep trading up, buy something used and keep trading up till you get what you want. And then sometimes by the time you can afford it, it's not that big of a deal anymore, because you have a different mindset. But, maybe you want to go to college and you want, to pay for it cash, and you might want to go to a private school. There might just be things that you just really want, a different surround system, or, your television or whatever, the phones, because even phones are very expensive now. iPhones are ridiculous. You might not want to finance that. You might want to pay for it, but always have a goal or a dream that you're striving for, and start tracking that and putting money away, because it feels so good when you finally achieve what it is you've been saving for. It feels better than if mom or dad or somebody just gives it to you. I promise you, when you've worked hard for something, it feels really, really good. Okay, let's go forward. Whoop, we're going to go this way. Okay, so here's the question. And I think last week we kind of hit on this. Does money actually grow on trees? I think okay, somebody was saying, you're muted. Dr. White's muted. I think she was talking. No? Okay. Well, if it does grow on trees, you guys need to tell me what pasture that is so we can all get down there and enjoy where it is.
We're going to shake that tree harder when we find it, right?
Exactly. So I think we had a student last time that was saying, well, it's made out of paper. So technically, it might come from trees, but it doesn't grow on them. Okay. It doesn't actually come from that. So we have to figure out, okay, how are we going to get our income, right? What is the source of the money going to be? Typically, it's going to be an allowance, for those of you that are not old enough to actually have a job outside of the home, or you might have a small job that you might babysit, you might pet sit, dog walk. There's all kinds of jobs that you could be doing in your teens that don't require you to actually go to a place of work. Per se, but you can also plan around that. You can mow lawns, you could clean. There's all kinds of things that you could do and make income, really. And then, of course, money and gifts from relatives is always nice, right? Or from mom and dad, because I was a person, and I don't know if this is good or bad. I look back and I think, I don't know if it was that great. So my sister and I didn't get an allowance. We just asked for what we wanted. That was like, oh, okay, if we can afford it, yes, if not. But I definitely had to have my grades. I had to have good grades. I couldn't have any conduct issues at school. That was just, that would not have worked. Because there was a period of time that I just kept talking while the teacher was talking, and I was getting some conduct grades that, I still remember those discussions with my parents. So, So be aware that sometimes, even if you don't have if you're working for something in the house, or you're helping your parents maintain the home and they give you allowance, then you kind of start getting used to, okay, I know I can budget for certain things. And this is really a good way for you to start establishing some great habits. Okay. So yes, your yard service, your chores, pet care, car washing, right? Working at a restaurant. You can go to the mall. You can also be tutoring. Some of you are excellent in your math skills or whatever. You can actually charge for that. That's not a bad idea. And then, of course, the birthday money, holiday money, things like that. Who all here has a job? Anybody?
It's funny. I was putting a message in the chat to ask that same question. Great minds think alike. Because I'm curious who has a job and what is it? You know, they're not responding to it. I just want to make sure they're still out. You know,
I don't have a job, but I used to work with like somebody to cut grass. I used to cut grass over the summer.
nice.
That's hard work.
Hey, when I was a teenager, I worked in a kennel. I always like to consider myself a little entrepreneur. I worked in a kennel, so I changed the newspaper and the cages and cleaned out cages for a summer, and then it migrated into working in a pet cemetery. So interesting jobs growing up. And then I was a roller skating bear at a roller rink back when we had the 8-wheel skates, roller skating day. Imagine being, this giant costume. It was hot. But you did what you have to do to make some money. I had a good time too.
Yeah, that's always fun. I forgot about the skate land. Yes,
Oh yeah, there you go.
absolutely.
Hey, they don't have the fun we used to have. They don't, yeah.
And we were home before midnight, and still had a great time. And we didn't have texting. We couldn't talk to anybody after we got home. It was like, get off the phone. So yeah, it was a whole different era. But anyway, I digress. So Jamani said he did yard work, right? I think that's who said he did yard work. That is one of the top paying service jobs that, if you continue with that and grow your client base, you would be surprised at how you can scale that and have extra people, working for you. And you could become very independent if you keep going with that. I can guarantee you that, as well as like power washing. Like if you go and wash people's sidewalks, driveways, you'd be surprised at how that can add up. So kudos to you for having a job that's very hot, and it's work, especially the summer months here are like torture. But those kinds of jobs, you can actually have a business, believe it or not. That's excellent. And I know for myself, because I was a horse fanatic, I used to clean stalls and feed and turn out horses and that stuff so I could have cheaper rent for my horse. So yeah, always something to do. That's for sure. And of course, I like being outside and like animals and stuff. So a lot of you are not quite here yet as far as housing expenses, et cetera. And maybe some of you do help out. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think we might have some 18-year-olds on. I'm not sure. But here are just a few of the types of expenses that you can expect to see, in a budget. Your rent payment or mortgage payment, that always comes with some sort of insurance, or should. I'm sure Mr. Freeman would say, oh yeah, you got to please have insurance. Even if you rent, get a renter's policy. Last winter, we know we had snow. And my nephew and his wife were in an apartment, and for whatever reason, the landlord did not decide to drip the pipes. So the, what do you call it? The fire alarm, right? The fire alarm system, those pipes had water that froze and then they burst.
The sprinkler
system. The sprinkler system burst. And they came home actually they didn't come home. She thought that there was a leak in the, where the washer and dryer was, but actually there was about 3 inches of water that just went through the entire apartment. So they had to move and all the stuff. So anyway, thank goodness they had a renter's policy that covered their belongings, as well as the food in the fridge, things like that, the stuff that we don't think about. But I think those of you that are my audience today probably don't have to worry about that. Mom and dad get to deal with that. But you also do want a budget for any kind of maintenance or repairs that you might have with that, and any kind of fees or dues, depending on where you live, that you might also have to pay. Other bills that come with just living. Okay. Earlier I talked about your water bill, your electricity, those are like basics. Your trash pickup, that's important. Your internet, all of us definitely need our Wi-Fi. We definitely can't live without that. So definitely want to put that in your budget. Cable, a lot of people are getting rid of cable or satellite because they can use their apps, which is nice. But what else comes along with having that app? Are those free that you could just stream? And
most of them, they have some type of fees associated with it. Sometimes you could just buy for one time, you have unlimited access to them, but then quite often they come with this little thing called a monthly fee. And they want to get into your debit card, and you quit using the app, and it's just like free money for them.
yes, that's a subscriber business model. Yes, for those of you that will go into business, you'll realize that a lot of people set it and forget it.
Oh yeah.
And they know that we're out here like, oh, I forgot I've been paying $20 a month for the last 5 years, but if you got enough of those people out there doing that, you can make a nice little living. Part of the other utilities too, that a lot of people don't realize when they first go off into an apartment, sometimes your heater is not electric. It could be gas. It could be natural gas. So then you have a different bill for that. So these are just a few little things in mind. What other kind of monthly expenses? We talked about subscriptions, but what else might you have to pay for those of you that are in high school that have your own devices? What might be some other expenses that would show up on a budget?
Boom, 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 boom. Hey, it's a hint. Somebody help us out. Come on. You don't want to hear us talking all day.
A car.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly. And even if it's not your car, how do you get around? Uber, right? Uber or Lyft?
Yeah.
That's an expense. And there's some other, on here that I didn't put that on here either, but what about restaurants? Grubhub, DoorDash, all these things, right?
Uber Eats.
There you go. Right. Those things cost money. So you have a subscription there. And then also just part of our culture now is to have people deliver stuff. So that's an expense. And if you don't cook or if you don't like to cook, or if this is a treat for you every weekend, put that in your budget. That way it's there and you can actually see how much you're paying. So here's a car payment. Insurance comes with a car, right? Maintenance comes with a car. You got to put fuel in it. You got to get oil. What other things come with cars?
Entertainment.
Insurance.
Insurance, exactly. Tires.
Yeah.
Tires are very expensive. And we know they're going to be running out. So at some point, we should be saving so that we can get a new set of tires that we don't have to put on a credit card because those aren't cheap. And yes, you can buy used, but it's better for you to replace them with something new that's got a warranty, and that way you're covered. But those kinds of things pop up and it's like, wow, I didn't think about that. And you just don't. It's just life gets in the way. So having a budget for those things, or saying, okay, if I'm going to buy a car, I think I need to be sure I can afford all that comes with it. And yes, by law, you do have to have insurance. So don't think that you can get off of not having it. Don't try that. Okay. That would not work. Some personal expenses, entertainment, Mr. Freeman just talked about that, but you'll need insurances. Okay. And again, it's always best to get it while you're young. Okay. It's a lot less expensive. And if something happens, it's already in place. But most of us have mobile phones. We have a satellite radio channel that we like. So we have satellite stuff for that. You might have childcare or pet care even, because anybody have a dog that goes to doggy daycare? I know. I work with people like this. I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no idea. Had zero idea that was even a possibility until one of my coworkers said, oh yeah, it cost me so much to put my 2 dogs in every day. And I thought, people are paying for this. So yes, childcare, pet care, vet bills, your clothes. Okay. Your app subscriptions, we just talked about that. These are the things that a lot of times we don't think about. We're just living and we don't realize, oh, I should be budgeting for that. Because a lot of times your budget too will show you where you're overspending. If you're spending, I don't know, $200 a month on apps, like what? What on earth? And sometimes that could even happen if they charge you for annual instead of monthly, like those things will pop up. So you're not prepared for that. So I'm not a cat person, but I just thought this was like so cute. I has the money. What do I do with it? Like what happens? So that's that penny that Mr. Freeman was talking about, right? It's like, what? I just got some money. So now what? Right? A lot of people have this habit of just, oh, if I get money, I spend it. Instead of, oh, I get money, let me save that. Let me, have a goal for whatever's coming next. You definitely want to take a look at, okay, when you get money, what do you do with it now that you have it? So this blueprint, this budget that we're talking about is really a way that you're going to manage and control your money. Okay. So here's the question. Should you control your budget or should your budget control you? What do you think?
We should control our budget.
You should, yes. If your budget controls you, is that bad or is that good?
Yes, it's bad because then you're just gonna be spending too much stuff. Too much money.
Or if do you think it'll let you do that? If you follow it, if you do what your budget tells you, are you in a better position?
Oh no! I had that backwards. Like you said in the budget, you're gonna follow your budget. So you won't spend the money that you have.
Exactly.
And that you have saved up.
Yes, exactly. And that's why a lot of people, as you get older, how old are you, Jemani?
I'm 15.
Okay, good. You're at a great age. So as you get older, you're going to find people that say, oh, I don't budget. I don't want to have nothing to do with that. I want to be able to do what I want with my money. And the budget is really there to be your safety net. It's really going to tell you, hey, if you have this budget and you let it do what it's supposed to, you're going to achieve all your goals, your financial goals. And you're going to be in a better position than somebody who, the reason I call this budget, don't fudge it, because some people fudge, they fudge their budget, or they pretend that they have more than they really don't. So they might spend out of a different category than the category that's already sitting there for them to do. So yeah, in some ways your budget really should control you so that you can be successful and have a reward at the end of your goals, instead of saying, what happened? So either you learn to manage your money, or the lack of money is going to manage you. This is very, very powerful statement. The lack of money, not having money, is going to manage you. If you don't, your options will be very limited, if you even have any options. Money is active. Okay. So it grows or it's going to go. It's one of the two. Either it's going to work for you, or it's going to work for somebody else. Okay. So make sure you do a written plan every single month, or even every summer. If you have your summer job, say, okay, by, August, I want to have X dollars because I know I want to buy whatever for Christmas, or every summer you're saving because, at the end of your senior year, you want to go to college, whatever that's for. Just make sure you've got a written plan for it. Okay. So if you don't manage your money and make it behave, then your ATM card or debit card are going to be your budget busters. You can't just keep spending and swiping. I have people in my family that just swipe till the card stops. And I'm thinking, that's not the way that's supposed to work. So don't do that. Just have a plan, make sure that your money, or your what we call soldiers, are working for you and going to work for you, so that you actually can have some money saved and be sure that it's doing what it's supposed to. Okay. So every dollar is going to have a place every month, no matter what. Okay. And so the easiest thing you could do is have a zero-based plan, meaning that you spend everything to zero, but not necessarily spend it going out of your hand. You might spend it or put it into a savings account. Okay. So the envelope system is a cash type system. Okay. That basically says you're going to cash your check and each envelope is going to have a certain amount of money in each one. And that way, when it's gone, you don't go to the next envelope and dip to spend in that category. You just basically make sure it's got a place to go. So if, for example, okay, with a budget, you're going to have a certain income and then you're going to have percentages. We kind of touched on this earlier. If Roger has $200 a month for tutoring his students after school, and he helps his elderly neighbors with a few of their chores, his mom says that he should budget 10%, right, for his savings. Okay, so that goes into the savings envelope, and then 10% to his church. And then he's got a phone bill that's $60 a month, and the rest is for entertainment and his clothes. How would this look, if we were going to put money in a savings envelope? Okay, so we have $200. What is 10% of $200? And you can use your calculators.
Oh, you're making my head hurt math on Saturday. Oh my gosh.
10%.
There you go. Who's got it?
No. Surprise.
Somebody got it?
180.
That's what would be left. Okay. So 180, $200 minus 180 is how much? $200. Yes, $20. Okay, so $20, awesome, is going to go to savings, and another 20 is going to go, to his church where he gives. Okay, so that leaves us, that's $40 there. And then he's got a mobile phone bill that's $60. Okay. So that's 40 plus 60, that's $100 that's gone already, right? So, and I don't think I have, these don't fill in. Okay, so we have 20 going into our savings and giving, and then 60 is next. So that leaves us with how much?
100.
So $100 is left. So depending on, how you want to do this, you might split it and say $50 for entertainment, $50 for clothes, or you might say, I can do the Netflix and chill. I don't need entertainment. I can put the rest, the majority going towards my clothes and not worry about entertainment. So depending on how you want to split it up, that's what zero looks like, right? You spent it all to zero, meaning you put your money, as soon as you got the 200, you said 10 to my savings, 10 to my giving, 60 for my phone. The rest is, and those last two categories could be anything that you want it to be. It doesn't have to be entertainment. It could be your car, right? It could be travel. It could be a concert that you want to go see that, somebody's coming at the end of the year. So you start putting money towards, things in your budget. So budgeting is really as simple as that. It's not super hard. But you want to make sure that you've got categories already established before the money comes in. Because if you don't, the money will come out and you'll be like, wait a minute, I had 200 and why do I only have like $80 left? It's like, oh, now I got to budget my $80. So just be aware that it's not hard, but you just have to give it a job. You got to give it a title, whatever that looks like. College fund, tuition, books, makeup, hair, clothes, all that good stuff that goes into that. Now, we're getting towards the end of the presentation, but savings is very important. And this is a habit I wish I would have started when I was Jamani's age and just got into the habit of doing it. Okay. Because you need to have a solid emergency fund in place for life emergencies like COVID. COVID happened and a lot of people they realized they did not have enough saved or any saved. They just were waiting for their next check. Another thing that can happen And I saw this on the news several years ago, and it bothered me because there was a company downtown it was a cabinet making place, and the news crew was out there, and they had a whole bunch of people lined up in front of the fence. The fence was locked. These people showed up to work one morning, and they were told, you no longer have a job. That's it. No warning, no nothing. And there was a gentleman that was so upset because he said, I have child support I have to pay. I have to pay, my children I have to provide for. So just think about that. Like, you're depending and relying on money every single check or every week, or, however you get paid. And then all of a sudden it's just gone. And if you don't have something in reserve, right, there's something tucked away. That was the panic on there. I think there was 200 employees standing out there. It was a big mess. And so the company had gone bankrupt, and they just basically said, we're sorry, we're closed. And unfortunately, that's part of life. So being prepared for life means, okay, what's my plan B, right? Plan B, if you already have an emergency fund in place prior to these kind of life things happening, you're going to be in much better shape. Now, again, however long, we didn't know COVID was going to be 2 years, right? So that's a whole different conversation. However, having a good emergency fund is just part of a budget. Okay. You should always budget for emergencies. Currently 6 to 9 months is good. Really, we couldn't have seen 2 years coming. I always like to tell people, if you could even get a year's worth tucked away somewhere in a money market savings account, which means you have access to your money, it's not locked up in an investment somewhere. At least it's liquid enough for you to get a hold of it. Okay. If you don't make 20,000 a year, having 500 saved or $1,000, you're probably okay. Okay. And it really just depends, again, on your lifestyle. And I think what Mr. Freeman said earlier was so spot on, because the more you make, the more you spend. And if your monthly expenses are really high, let's say you make 200,000 a year or 500,000 a year, your emergency fund is definitely not going to be $500. Okay. That's probably a Friday night dinner somewhere. That's a different lifestyle. So you're probably going to have a much different emergency fund than you would, if you make less than 20,000 a year. And most of you students, or those of you that are going to go off to college and get a part-time job, that's about all you're going to, you want to focus on your work, your schoolwork, not working at a job. So you don't need to be worried about money. But if you've established, a good, strong emergency fund with 6 to 9 months of your expenses, you're probably doing better than most. Now, your expenses, though, are everything, not just your housing. You want to put your fund money in there. You want to put your car maintenance in there. You need to have maintenance and all that covered. Most people don't even think about that. I've had some clients that I've coached that I said, hey, I want you to just do a spending diary for 3 days, just 3, Monday through Wednesday, everything you spent. So they came back with the Starbucks. They had the dry cleaning. Things that we don't think about, like, you go into panic mode and you're like, oh my gosh. But if you had every single thing that you spend already put away for, 6 to 9 months, if you lost a job, you would have half of a year to find another one. What was that, Mr. Freeman? You're muted.
I'm multitasking. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I thought you were commenting. I understand. So having everything you need so that if you're ever out of a job suddenly, or if you get relocated somewhere, all of a sudden you're going to have enough to stay on your feet, get ready, move forward, and not have a panic attack or a meltdown, or your family won't be put into a position of just struggling or scrambling or having to sell off everything just to maintain some sort of order. Okay. After you have an emergency fund, pay off your debt if you have any debt. Once you're out of debt, then go back to making sure your emergency fund has enough money. The formula that I would use, because that was what was asked, and this was not the slideshow that I had prepared. I had technical issues earlier. I was telling Laura that. So A good rule of thumb, okay, you want to always save 10%. If you can save more, great. The more you can save, the better. And give 10, because I think if you're giving, then you're going to be receiving it. It's everything kind of comes back to you. So get in the habit of not being stingy and helping, whether that be, if you're not a churchgoer, okay, but where could you help? Can you give to maybe the Heart Association, Cancer Association, to your local pet shelter? It's something to just be in a giving mode so that money can come back to you. 50% would be on your just spending, right? Your bills, your expenses. Okay. You also want to be sure that you have money for fun. Okay. You want to build 10% in there as well. So what are we at? 80%. And then the other portion you want to save for investments. If you can have a separate investment account that's separate from savings, okay, it's totally different. That's going to be the money that makes money for you. Those are going to be your soldiers that you can call up Mr. Freeman one day and say, okay, I'm ready now to invest. I need a stock portfolio, or I want to do crypto. I want to do, other things, but that money is just always and forever going to be just for investments. Always. So that's not savings. That's not the normal savings account. Okay. That's separate from that. You definitely want to allot your money a place to go make more money for you, because wealth building is really passive income. You want to get to a place where whether you work or not, your money is still generating more money and more income for you to be able to continue to live the lifestyle that you'd like to live, instead of being forced to live if you didn't have it. A lot of people feel like, oh, I've got to wait to save up X dollars. And I'm like, no, even if it's $1, put the dollar into an investment account and hold it. Hold that $1. And even if you only have $1, like some of you might say, I don't have money, I don't have income, Dr. Mel, what are you talking about? Okay, well, do you have $5? Okay, so I want you to put 10% of that into a savings account and give 10% of that away. I want you to start with what you have. If you got $1, put a dime away. Give another dime. Okay. So I'm just saying that start using what you have. I think a lot of us try to overcomplicate it, or we feel like, oh, well, when I get to Dr. Mel's, whatever she makes, or if I was a professor, then I would do it then. No, just start right now. Start with your allowance, start with your birthday money. Because I really believe in Mr. Freeman, you chime in whenever you want with regards to, because you do a lot of investment stuff. I believe that when you begin to manage well, money keeps showing up. And it's almost like you have to start the process. You're not waiting for this time that, oh, when I get out of debt, then I will do. No, with what you have. If you only have, like I said, $13 extra at the end of the month, what are you going to do with that 13? You got to start now. Don't wait. And time is your friend. So the earlier you start this, the sooner more money can show up.
Yeah, Dr. Wesby, Dr. Mel, awesome. I was going to chime in a couple of times, but you were on a roll. And so I started writing down notes on myself there, because I'm hoping everybody else is getting these key points and takeaways and putting it in their phone or their notebook or whatever. Because that 30% plan of investing is exactly what I tell my adults that they need to do. I break it down a little bit simpler as, 20%, you said 30% is even better, because 20% for long, the 10% of it for long range, 5% for short, and 5% for mid. And then you have to define what that short and mid are. But, it used to be that when you had your cell phone, you had a certain amount of minutes per month. It's a couple of years back. Now the cell phones are unlimited, but a lot of people got frustrated because at the end of the month, if they didn't use all of their minutes, they just lost them. So if I had 100 minutes I got to use and I used 50, I lost 50 minutes. There was no credits. There's no adjustments. Cell phone companies said, hey, look, that was money that you're wasting. We're going to help you. Then they some of the companies started saying, hey, that extra 50 minutes that you didn't use, we're going to roll it over to the next month so you can bank these hours and grow. That's exactly what you're talking about with their savings. If you've got $1 left over, you got $1 left over. Roll it into the next month and make that dollar grow. I mean, there's an analogy of if you saved a penny a day, what would that penny do for you at the end of a year, at the end of 10 years? It's phenomenal. You could have thousands and thousands of dollars if you save those pennies. And I said, a penny saved is a penny earned. That's where it comes back to. I do have a question for the students that are on here. And I think it helps tie in what you've been saying through the presentation. So for the students, is it better to start at a point of surplus or a point of deficit as you're going and you're planning your budget and you're figuring out what you're going to do next? Somebody want to help me out that one? How about you, Kaimani? You've been very quiet today.
She helped with the budget.
Oh,
she did talk about the budget.
That's right. That's right. And so I would say that it's always better to start with at a point of surplus. And I'll use somebody that near and dear to me came and said, hey, look, I just graduated with my master's degree, and I'm going to get my first real job. I'm going to make a great amount of money in my job. So I'm ready to move out of the house. I love you and mom and pop. So you can tell it was one of my kids, and said, I'm going to move out of my house, out of your house, and I'm going to get my own apartment. And I said, well, why don't you stay with us 6 months? And the initial answer was, no, I'm going to do it. So we went back to exactly what you said, did a budget, and we did the rent. We did the deposits to move into the apartment. We did the utilities, the deposits for the utilities. We did the cell phone, the car, the insurance, all those. And after we added up all the numbers of what it was going to cost per month, it was affordable. But the response was, can I live, instead of 6 months, can I live at home for a year? And I said, absolutely. So that individual stayed home for a year, saved money to be prepared to not have to worry about where they were going to live and what it was going to cost, because they now took that year and paid themselves that budget and put it into a surplus account that now, as they moved on, they had an emergency fund. They had all of the basic necessities to be able to travel, live, and have a very high quality life. And it was amazing that doing that budget, how enlightening it was for my daughter. And so she quickly realized that it was so much more powerful to start at a point of surplus versus a point of deficit. So all of our youth that are on here today, that you're living with your parents and you're getting closer and closer to high school, now is the perfect time, while you don't have to pay all of those things that we talked about, to tuck away a little bit every month for that rainy day, for that big event that you want to do. I think it was last week that we had a gentleman, Jax, that was on, who said he saved and bought his VR headset. That's phenomenal, but you got to know what your needs are and what you want. And then you can get to that point of having that surplus versus being in a deficit. Exactly.
I like that. And I forgot to kind of add, of course, this is probably more for parents, but there was this little book that I got from Amazon that has, hopefully my screensaver, it actually has see if I can get this to work.
Yeah.
I guess I just totally disappeared. I hate these things. Anyway, it's got a calculator in it. It's got envelopes that you can actually use along with your ledgers, Well, there it kind of went. Let me see if I can move that. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay. Yeah. Sort of, kind of. Yeah. These little things you can put, budget for your car, put your cash in here. And then you've actually got an actual book to move around with. I know it's a lot bigger than a wallet, but for those of you that need a system, get a system that works for you. That's the other thing I wanted to say. Not everybody can, it's very personal, and there's no perfect way or not perfect way. It's what works for you. So if, envelopes don't work for you, or wallets, figure out a way to, put the money in the bank, or have a couple of different bank accounts. Maybe your Chase bank will have your spending money, but then your savings money you're going to have at the credit union or somewhere else where you don't touch it. And so when you start getting a paycheck, you just automatically transfer a portion of that to your other bank, and you go on with life. But it's just a habit. And the quicker you start doing it, to me, it's a lot less painful the smaller the amount. So if you don't have a lot, rejoice that it's not as painful. Again, like I said, if you have $1, then okay, I can do a dime, right? That doesn't feel so stressful. Like if you're trying to take $500 out at the same, oh my goodness, it just doesn't feel the same as a dime. So I'm just saying, work with what you have while you have it, and just watch it grow. But have a plan for it, because if you don't, you'll get out to the mall, or the little Amazon ads pop up, and you're like, oh, this is on sale, or this is the deal of the day. And then before you know it, you're broke. And I don't care what anybody says, being broke is not cute. It's not. Not having anything to offer is not fun or cute. And nobody else, should be your financial plan. Don't depend on somebody else's plan to take care of you. You need to have your own. Even in a marriage and all that stuff, just make sure you're bringing more to the table than a plate.
Outstanding.
I'm going to behave.
It's so exciting to get into this, and there's so many salient important points that we all continue to take away from these. Now, Jamani, I'm going to come back to you, because you've been very, very helpful through this discussion today. So from your perspective, if I give you a job today, and you were getting $15 an hour, and it's a job you'd love, Dr. Mel, what do they say about a job that you love?
It's not work.
It's not work, and that you can do it forever. So, as you continue to press forward, whether you're mowing grass, you're working at Macy's, whatever it could be. Now you've got that job. What are some things now that you think you've learned, Jamani, that what you would do with that salary and that money that you're getting from that job?
I would take the time to save the money that I got, and knowing that I'll make it again, and like put the money to the side. So like whenever I really need it, I can use it. And then like all the money that I don't know how to explain it, but like it's like money that I save, and then money that I like could use to like have fun with, and then I'll keep that on me and then save some of the money.
All right. So that's a phenomenal answer. Thank you very much. So let's say that you started doing that, and this time next year, and so the end of February of 2023, you've put away $1,000. What's something that and this is a surplus for you. Now, what would you do with that? Is there something that you would want to buy or do?
Be something that I want, like from the it would be something that I wanted, that I've been for to buy.
Give me an example of something you'd like to buy.
I would like to buy a PS5.
PS5. Great. So what I'm kind of trying to help you through is that we all have goals. So in just 30 seconds there, you identified there's something you would like to have or that you want.
That I would like to have.
Okay, all right. But if you don't get it, it's okay. It's a little disappointed, but you have to work. So now in your goals, you're starting to figure those out. So now you have a plan. You can have the ability to put a plan together. Says, how do I get to that goal? Exactly, going back to what Dr. Weathersby said, put together a budget. Hey, so that system costs $900. So every month, every week, every day, how do I get to that point to have enough accumulated? It's easily can be done. So now, if you don't have a steady job and you don't have a regular income, and you can go back to your parents saying, okay, here's something I would love to do in the next year. Can you help me get there? So you increase the communication between you and your parents, which they're going to be extremely happy that you're doing that, because you're not coming in going, give it to me yesterday, and being demanding, and you've got a plan of how to get there, but you need help to get to that end state. We all need that opportunity, and this is just one little small example of how do we do it. And using that, we all will have the same requirements. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
$900 is $75 a month. So if you could save $75 every single month, in 12 months, you'll have 900 saved. So that's less than $25 a week that you have to figure out how to get.
Did you ever think of doing that aspect of it, Giovanni?
No.
Okay, because most of us we see the ad and then we go, let's get it now. We're in an immediate society. And so, but if it's something that's important to you and you earn it, you have more value in that item. I mean, me personally, when I was younger, about every 3 to 4 years, I was rotating cars for about 6 rotations. I mean, it was, before I got it paid off, I was already jumping into the next vehicle, and I didn't realize of how bad of a habit that was. But hey, I felt that I needed a fresh new car, and the market and the sales reps, as I continued to dream. It's back to what we talked about, that as you continue to move up the chain. I mean, I guess it was a need, and it was what I wanted, because I started off with a car that was 12 years old, that had more rust on it, and made more noise, and barely. I mean, she talked about a Volkswagen Beetle. Man, this thing was a beast car, but I just continued to kind of up my game to get something that was more reliable, more dependable, cost more, had more value. But now that I'm older and wiser, it's all about, hey, I don't want a car payment. I'm good with an older car. But I put the money that was a car payment into maintenance to keep that car running and in top condition, and changing the tires, the shocks, and all the maintenance things to make it run like a new car. And the big thing is that I don't owe anybody anything, and it's my car, and it's increasing in value, because now it's becoming classic.
Yeah, Ivy, that leads into, you guys have presented some great information. You talked about budgeting, you talked about savings. And so as Dr. Mel ended her presentation, she had a question. So I'd kind of lead off with a question I have about credit, and as it relates to budgeting. I know one of the things, early in my career, and I wasn't introduced to this stuff, a lot of this stuff, until I was an adult. And so I'm really, really excited that we get to introduce this to young adults and teenagers at this point. But let's talk a little bit about credit. And so we've introduced money, we've introduced how to make money and how to save money and how to budget, how to track those expenses. But one thing I noticed when we're working with folks is that oftentimes we don't include credit in our everyday budget. Can you all speak on that a little bit? Because I want to let the young folks know about credit cards especially. And I always tell young people that a credit card is simply a loan application that's put in miniature form. It's a pre-authorized loan application. And so when we use credit cards to buy insignificant things like pizza and clothes at some point, or unnecessary clothes, I should say, or a soda, or if we're using credit cards at the fast food restaurant, that's akin to going into the bank, taking a loan to get those type of things. And so if I ask the young people on this call, if they would go to Randolph Brooks or any other credit union or bank, ask for a loan application to get approved to go get a burger and fries, would they do it? The answer is always no. But if they got a credit card in their personal wallet, they would use that credit card at that fast food restaurant. And it's essentially the same type of transaction. Talk about the importance of that and how oftentimes the use of those credit cards and mismanaged credit destroys our budget that we talked about all day today.
That's outstanding. And if it's okay, I'll go ahead and go first here on this one. So I'm a believer that credit is not bad, and the use of credit cards is not bad. What's bad is our discipline and our willingness to not keep ahead of it. The beautiful thing about what Dr. Harris said is that every credit card, yes, as it is can be a loan, and it has an interest associated with it, just like your savings account, but that interest is astronomically, significantly higher than your savings account. But it does have a built-in grace period where it can be to your advantage when you do have a shortfall on your spending, or if you use it in a way that you take advantage of all of the benefits associated with it. In that 30-day grace period, if you pay off that burger and clothing and you zero balance your credit card, then you don't incur the interest and it's not as bad. But again, back to the discipline, most people hit it at 32 days and all of a sudden now they're incurring penalty. You can call it a penalty because now that $5 burger or whatever it was has cost you $7 because of the interest associated with it. But if you do manage it and put it into the cycle, there are some significant benefits from it, travel miles, perks, and so forth that can be added to it. Dr. Melody, is that kind of agree, or do you have a different perspective on it?
No, I agree. I think that, first of all, I think not having credit is worse than, having it, because when you need it, like to buy a house or a car, if you don't have you have no credit history, that's even worse. So you want to establish credit, but what you don't want to do is like Mr. Freeman said, you don't want to overextend yourself. Here's where I find the problem is, and I'm currently working on a book that I'm trying to hurry up and finish and get it published for students for 16-year-olds to 26-year-olds. Okay. So at each stage of, we have different understanding or perspectives of what certain things mean. But I think students, by the time you can drive a car, I want you to know about money. Okay. And then up to you're like a graduate student, because these things aren't being taught. But what I've always said is people don't understand the difference between revolving credit and simple interest. And so that revolving cycle is the problem, because like you said, if you don't pay it off in full, then interest gets added to the balance. And sometimes, your minimum payment will never, ever touch the principal that you initially borrowed. And so nobody even gets any of this. So here's the analogy I always ask people. Have you rented a car before? And those of you that have rented one, let me ask you, what does it cost to rent, let's say, a Toyota Tercel for the weekend? Like a small, economy size car. What is that?
I say $30 a day.
There you go. $30 a day. So you pick it up Friday, you drop it off Sunday. That's what Friday, Saturday says. That's the $90. Not a big deal. You're on your way. Ha ha. Okay. Now that same car you rented for a weekend was great. Would you rent that same car for $30 a day for the whole month? Because that's how much. How much is that for 1 month to drive that car?
Like $900, right?
Right. So I'd want to drive my Benz or my Escalade, right? That $900 payment needs to be something a lot better than that. So what I always tell my students is, if you can think of a credit card, like you're renting money. You're renting that money. And the longer you rent it, the more expensive it becomes. And you would not drive a little 4-cylinder that don't have no power, that you can't even screech the tires in. Okay. Y'all cannot get around on no Tercel and be a hot boy, hot girl. You can't be revving it. It's not a muscle car. It's not even, it's not a classic. It's not a luxury car. So when you go outside of that revolving cycle, you are now renting that Tercel for $900 a month, and you won't even own it. It's one thing if you're paying $900 a month and you're paying it off quick and you own what you got, but just think of that renting analogy. You're renting money every time you swipe. It's for rent. You don't own it. It's going to be very expensive, and it's not even going to be what you like. It's not. That Tercel, $900 a month, that, you could go to, I can't imagine going to a car lot and them telling you, this is going to be $900 a month. And you're going to go, oh, great. No, you're going to run. You're going to be like, forget that. I don't want that. So that's the same thing. It's just keep that in your mind. Anytime you pull out your plastic, if you don't pay it off by the end of the month, that is a very costly purchase that you just did. That is something that you don't even want. You don't want that. So just rented money. That's all credit cards are, but you need to establish a credit history. You need to pay it off. And that's why I tell people that are rebuilding credit, I don't care what the interest rate is, because, oh my God, it's 36% on this one. I said, well, if you pay it off every month, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to reestablish your credit history. Once you can show that you can manage what you have, then you're going to get the better offers. But you got to start somewhere. So if you've been through bankruptcy, foreclosure, divorce, all the stuff that can happen with your money and your credit, you can rebuild it. It's not the end of the world. It's not. But I think we make it the end of the world because there's a stigma attached to it. But if you got bad credit, you can fix it. But just think of that Tercel. Do you want to ride in a Tercel or the Benz? The way you take care of that payment is it's going to determine that.
Exactly. One other additional point, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Harris, is that, as we talked about creating that emergency fund, sometimes life is really, really cruel to us, for whatever reason. Back to the example of the apartment getting flooded with 2-3 inches of water. There are times when having that good credit history, a good interest rate on your credit card, to where it gives you the flexibility to say, okay, I have to buy a new washer or a new dryer or refrigerator. I'm just going to put it on my credit card and have to pay it off that way because I just don't have the excess funds to do it, but I have to have a refrigerator, and I got 12 kids and I got to do all this laundry. Just kidding, Dr. White. I don't have 12 kids. She's like, what? And I can't afford to be running to the laundromat. I really need to have that washer from Lowe's that I got a great deal. So that's where that delicate balance has to come in, and your discipline has to be there as you decide that this is a priority to pay it back off so you can alleviate that debt that's on your record there.
And if you've got a great interest, some of them say 0 interest for 12 months. So it's really, you get the item and you get to make payments instead of having to wait for 12 months to save up. If you've taken care of your credit, then they have specials they reward you for that.
True. Because there's no longer the layaway.
That's right.
That's how we used to get around it. You could put it on layaway and they'd hold it for you, and then you could make the payments and you didn't need credit. But that's no longer. So we're forced in the society nowadays to use credit if we don't have the funds available immediately to get what we need.
But you just said it. And I was just going to go back to, is it a want or is it a need? Is that burger really, you might want that, but do you really need that? And now the vending machines even have credit swipes. I don't know if you've seen that. So you can get that stick of gum or a pack of gum, for a swipe. Just pay off your swipes when that bill comes in.
Yeah. Apple Pay. Yeah. Venmo.
Dr. White's like, oh God. Yeah. It's the Tercel.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to introduce to the young people the fact that, it's great knowing how to budget and manage your income and expenses, but it's also great to know and understand how to manage that debt and credit
Yes.
along with that. It goes hand in hand. So great session today. From our audience, any questions? Any questions for Ivory or Doc Mel?
Here's a good question. I see. What's the difference between a debit card and a credit card? Anybody know? They both look the same, right? You swipe them.
They both have a Visa on them too, usually.
Anybody know?
Hey, Patrick Gray's on here today. Maybe he can answer for it. He's an adult though. Hopefully he understands.
I can make something up.
Yeah. I know personally, I got both of those from the same organization, the same bank, so the subtle differences as we get from where they originated, the way that they look, the account number, it's where they're resourced from. So your credit card from your financial institution behind Visa, MasterCard, American Express, whatever that credit card is accounted in a separate system. And the payments go specifically to that one, as opposed to your debit card, which I think most I know I personally started my son and daughter off with a little debit card that I had joint access to, that I could put some pennies into their accounts or dollars into it to help them start learning money management. But that comes directly from your checking account. And so it's one of those things where if you don't have money, there's no money available. So does that make sense to whoever asked that question?
Yeah, and so what we're looking at is, the differences in a debit card and a credit card. With the debit card, it's equivalent to cash. You're spending your own money, the money that's in your account. And of course, with the credit card, again, you're taking that loan, as Dr. Mel said, you're renting money. So everything you put on that credit card is essentially a loan that's going to have interest charges. And I believe the grace periods was mentioned earlier. I believe the typical grace period is around 25 days, I believe, for most credit cards. So if you pay it off anywhere from 1 to 20 or 25 days, you're not going to incur any interest. If you go beyond that, they will apply all of that interest from day one to that charge. And so, each credit cards may have some different grace periods, but I think the average is around 25 days.
Dr. Harris, using it to your advantage. So we have a lot of future entrepreneurs that are on here. There was one of the credit card companies had a commercial, and they were talking about using the benefits in their business, and the fact that they were getting points and credits that were put back onto their account based on the spending, and that they were able to turn around and use those credits that, because they were a business, they had an income coming in and they were paying off their balances, that they turned around each year and they bought new equipment to grow their company. And it was almost like a bonus free money for the company and the way that they were doing it. So again, that's another example of using it to your advantage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, any final questions for our panelists, for our panelists of experts, before we begin to wrap things up? We have, I didn't mention it earlier in the show. One of our partners and sponsors is the AKAs. I believe it's our Alpha Alpha Omega Z chapter, Z Omega. Did I chop that up? We can't hear you, Dr. Ray. Is your volume up?
She's unmuted, it shows.
Yeah, it shows that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Say something?
No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's been one of those days. It's the rain causing it. Gremlins, waking the gremlins up.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some great work in partnership with our AKA partners. So look for some great things with them. I know they have some things going on in health and wellness. They're always doing great things around the community, and we love that partnership.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we are.
All right. Well, thank you. I am Dr. Raylyn White, and I am the chaplain for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Alpha Xi Omega chapter. And we thank you for allowing us with this partnership to help with the financial literacy. On today, we were partnering with the Alpha Phi Alpha chapter for the Alpha Talks at Wagner. So some of us are there. And then on tomorrow, we will be having a health fair at Macedonia at 12 tomorrow. So we are trying our best to do our service for all mankind in every aspects for our community. So thank you. And see you on when is the next one? In April? No, I mean in March.
March 12th.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And to one last call to our audience and participants on the call today. Any final questions about savings, banking, budgeting, credit? What's on your mind? Do remember that the pre and post test that we put in the link earlier, that is essential to qualifying for the incentives that we have, where we match up to $100 for a youth that opens a savings account and save money between January 1 and April 30th, up to $100. The 100 Black men will match that. And then you also will have the opportunity to compete for a computer in partnership with TAN TV and Comerica Bank. And so some great incentives. So if you're a youth out there between the ages of 11 and 18, please take those surveys. If you can't access it, find a way to get in touch with us, and we'll walk you through how to get those taken. But we want to thank Ivory. We want to thank our AKA partners. We want to thank Dr. Mel for a great presentation today. Final comments, Ivory and Dr. Mel.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and special thanks to TAN TV as always as part of this. It's a pleasure having the opportunity to share the highlights with Dr. Mel. It definitely is some good insights there, and just continue as you think through what was talked about today to put it into your discipline and start planning on practicing it so that it can become a habit versus something that you have to think about. Because as soon as you can make your budget and your financial process a habit, the easier it will become and the more money and the more potential that you will have.
I agree. And the only thing I would add to that is to dream big.
Oh, yeah.
Like really big. Like Kentucky Derby, I want a racehorse big that costs like $1 million, $2 million for an animal. People are like, what? But until your behavior, your actions won't go further than the size of your dream. Okay. So the bigger, the better. That's going to push you. That's going to stretch you. That might be uncomfortable, might not be popular with your friends or even your own family, or be like, what? But I think the bigger you dream, then the bigger your budget and the bigger you end up seeing how awesome you can be. Because I think if you don't test that, you don't test your awesome button, you'll never see how far you could go. I'm sure all of us on the panel here, even Dr. White could even say with, helping the community too. Sometimes we get so into ourselves, we don't think about our fellow neighbor or a fellow, anybody. So you never know how far you can go, I think, until you just dream, let yourself dream as big as you can, maybe it's never been done before ever, but let you be the first person to set the standard, and don't be afraid to go big. The bigger, the better. And make sure you don't forget me when you go that big. You can say, oh, I remember that lady. It was this cold Saturday afternoon. I had to sit there and listen to her ramble about renting money and all this stuff. Come back to me, because I want to say, I told you. Yeah. I'm sure nobody thought they could get to the moon. And now look, now you can do it as just recreation. Average person can, well, I don't know if it's average. You got to be a billionaire probably, but you can go to the moon now. Like that's unheard of. So shoot for the stars, guys. Just, don't count yourself out. That's what I would say. Where there's a will, there's a way. And again, your money and knowing how to manage it and making sure it has a job and it's protected and safe and well managed is going to take you very, very far. And it's a privilege to be able to share with you just from the things that I've seen and the places that I've worked. And I can promise you that you are rare to be here on a Saturday afternoon where a lot of people aren't thinking about this. You are years ahead of them in your life just because you're taking the time now to learn what is not being taught in schools. But hopefully that's going to change. If I can help it, it will. But just knowing this and being able to bring this now back to your sisters, brothers, parents, friends, set a challenge with them. Would it be okay if I shared just one last screen? I found something I thought would be very helpful for those of you watching. Check out this money challenge. You might want to just challenge yourself. $1 a week. Okay. So if you look at $1 a week for the whole year, okay. So week 1, you put $1, the next week you're putting 2. So now you have $3. You see how it keeps going up every week, depending on which week you're in. By the end of the year, look at that. You'll have over $1,000 saved just from $1 a week challenge. So I just wanted to share that with you. I think we talked about a penny a day or penny saved. With $1 a week, you could have over $1,000 saved by the end of the year. So keep that in mind. It doesn't take a lot. It just takes the habit of doing it. The power of getting it done is better than the power of just thinking about it. Does that make sense to everybody? Or how does that make you feel seeing that? Because a lot of us are like, what? Is it that easy? It's that easy.
It is. It's back to discipline.
Yeah.
And having a drive, having a goal. You nailed it.
Worked. Well, thank you so much, Ivory, Dr. Mel, Laura over at TAN TV and our AKA partners. We really appreciate it. You're only limited by your imagination. But like Dr. Mel said, dream big, dream big. No one can stamp your imagination but you. All right. And so until the next time, we're going to be right back here, March 12th, Conversations with the 100, Banking Like a Boss. We're looking forward to it, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Everybody have a great day.